Earlier this month, The Matrix Awakens released on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X, and it's not so much of a game, but more of an Unreal Engine 5 experience, which will allow you to uncover for yourself just what this next-gen game engine has to offer. In today's video, I'll be cherry-picking some of the things I really like about this game engine, and naturally, I'll be showing you how to break out of bounds. My name's Mike, you're watching Deconstructing the Game, let's get to it. So after a short opening sequence with Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, you'll progress onto this opening chase sequence where if you choose not to fire, the automatic fire program will take effect, making it abundantly clear that this is not a game, but more of an experience for you to be a part of. The high-speed chase is a cinematic on-rails experience even if you do choose to fire at the agents, but it's showing off how good the cinematics are within the game engine and the geometry and lighting effects. Unreal Engine 5 uses something called nanite technology, which basically means that everything within the game has geometry and is rendered at an incredible level of detail. Couple nanite technology with a temporal super resolution and you will have super high fidelity objects. Everyday objects like crisp packets on the ground, cast shadows, and you can even read the ingredients. I'm not joking. Unreal Engine states that there's still limitations to nanite technology, but there can be literally thousands of triangles making up an everyday object to make it look as real as possible. So real that you can see the fabric inside this tire, and you can even see the grain on this wood. Providing you use the right camera angle and lens, you could read anything written down in this game engine, all thanks to temporal super resolution. Anything in advertisements or signs. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in ink. All it has to be is imprinted on the actual object, and that's all because that most objects and assets in this game are actually scanned in. Sticking on the subjects for graphics for just a second, I want to talk about Lumen, which is the dynamic global illumination and reflections that they use for the city. Basically everything that emits light is bounced off a reflective surface and it is accurate to a T. There's nothing wrong with this illumination system and it's perfect. You will see your character reflected in windows, car windows, shop windows, puddles on the ground. Even in metal that is slightly reflective, you are going to see a reflection, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. Now there is one caveat to this, and I don't think it's Lumen per se, but the nighttime version of the city is in the experimental phase, so if you're flying high above the city and you're flying forward, you will see pop-ins and there will be a level of detail issues as well. So just bear that in mind, it's still the experimental phase, but it does still look really, really good. And if you do happen to find yourself looking into one of these windows with a shop window or an apartment window, you'll notice that there's actually an interior. But don't be fooled, this isn't a real three-dimensional interior, it's actually a 2D image and they use parallax scrolling and shading to make it look like a three-dimensional image. This technique isn't anything new and it has been used in other games previously before, but I think this experience just does it that little bit better. In layman's terms, the two-dimensional image is actually moving at a different speed to everything else around it, giving it the illusion of depth. If you go behind inside the buildings, you'll see that nothing is actually there, and they use this technique beautifully. And if you have a really keen eye, you'll notice that the images on the television screens inside these apartment buildings are actually scenes from the Matrix movies, which I thought was a nice touch. The open world city in which this experience takes place is actually procedurally generated using something called Houdini. This integrates with Unreal Engine 5 and is able to produce a massive scale city with the use of very minimum staff. One of the first things you'll probably notice about the city is how densely populated it is, not only with the NPC characters or metahumans that they use, but also the traffic as well. Now for me, the metahumans weren't actually that great. I thought they were very robotic and alien-like. I didn't like them at all, I thought they were creepy. But this is an Unreal Engine experience, and I thought that most of this was showing off the lighting effects, the photogrammetry, the geometry of objects. So I can forgive them for the metahumans, but I hope they improve on this because for me, these metahumans are just creepy and a little bit unnerving. Within the engine, you can toggle the mass framework system, which controls the pedestrians and the traffic in the game. This basically places boxes where those traffic items would be: green for moving traffic, blue for stationary traffic, and white for pedestrians. If you fly high up in the sky, you'll see that there is a huge vast area of these AI boxes around, but if you go back onto the normal view, there's almost a draw distance like circle around where you'll see those cars actually moving around. But it's quite cool. If you toggle this on and off, it's almost like it remembers what vehicle that was, because in the opening montage, if you flick it on and off, you'll see that the boxes return to the vehicle they previously on. So that's quite a cool feature. It remembers what the vehicle was, which I think is quite interesting. Unreal states that no car collision in this experience is ever the same, but they're not using nanite technology for the deforming of these crumple zones. So I'm not sure what they're using, but the fidelity of the textures is still very high when they're deformed, and you can still see the reflections in those vehicles as well, which is very interesting. You'll see that using the different views will show that the vehicle is completely black and there's no textures or triangles making up this vehicle. So I'm not sure what technology has been used here, but it's very interesting. Calculating real-time damage in any game is quite labor-intensive on the CPU, but Unreal Engine 5 uses something called Chaos, which is a physics and destruction system which they say is used to achieve cinematic quality levels of destruction in real time, and it will simulate the movement of cloth, hair, vehicles, and more. For me, it's not true to life in the way of the physics, because if I hit something at 120 miles an hour in my car, I should see a lot more damage and destruction than what I do. There's also very little things I can knock over, like lampposts and things like that. They all seem to stay in one place, and it's only the vehicles that get damaged. So maybe that's something they've overlooked, but I would like to see a bit more destructibility in the actual city itself, and not just in the cinematics. Now, I've heard quite a lot of comments based around this Unreal Engine experience saying that there's virtually no pop-ins or everything's seamless, it's perfect. It isn't perfect, but it is very close. You can still see a lot of different pop-ins, LOD pop-ins, things like that, if you pay attention. But if you look back at this video and pause it at some points, you will see a level of detail pop-ins, and you will see vehicle pop-ins as well. But they are very few and far between. It's not perfect, but it is damn close. So we've spoken a fair bit there about the technical side of Unreal Engine 5 and what makes it next gen. But what can you do in the way of playing this game other than exploring? Well, there's not a great deal because, as I said, this is an experience, but you can actually get out of bounds if you so wish. You can get out of bounds within buildings inside the city, and you can also get out of bounds of the city itself. All you have to do is find a sports car and drive as fast as you possibly can to the waterfront, and then just before you get to the waterfront, jerk the wheel left or right, causing your wheel to hit the curb, rolling you over and then onto the water. The vehicle will actually drive on an invisible ground, and then from here you can drive anywhere you like outside the city into the surrounding areas. What's interesting to me is that all these cities outside are almost carbon copy of each other, but the level of detail on these is actually very high considering they're not meant to be seen from this close up. If you drive out too far, you will fall through the map and you will respawn inside the city, but you can see some pretty interesting and weird things inside these areas, like a satellite image on an actual building. I'm not sure why that's there, and I'm not sure if these are here to actually load into the main city for textures, or if they're there just for outside kind of scenery. So there are a few ways as well to get inside the buildings in the city, and one of the most common ones is to just find a few that are stacked together where the procedurally generated algorithm hasn't properly stitched them together. There will be an opening and you can walk in and out. There are a few other options in relation to tricking the camera, flicking between your character and the free drone, but if your drone gets stuck inside a building, you won't be able to get out with your character, so you will have to restart or reload the game. There are also a few glitches and bugs, like the floor is missing in some places and there's holes in buildings where you can see in, but it's very minimal. And overall, I think the technology in this is extremely good, and hopefully we'll get some really great games in the future. If you want to get your camera inside any of the vehicles, all you have to do is put your character to one side of the vehicle and then quickly switch between the drone and your character. At some point, the camera should shift inside the vehicle, and if you're quick enough, you will be able to activate the drone whilst you're in the vehicle. You can snoop around the interior. There's not a great deal to see, but each vehicle has a slightly different interior, which I thought was quite interesting. So you can do that as well, but other than that, that's all you can do out of bounds, and I hope you enjoy exploring the city because it is a really well detailed city and it's quite immersive as well. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. A little bit different, not quite the cyberpunk video we're used to, but I have enjoyed researching the technologies of this, and I hope we're going to see a lot of great games in the future using Unreal Engine 5, possibly GTA 6, we never know, or any other game that might be next gen. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, guys. My name is Mike, you've been watching Deconstructing the Game, and as always, I'll catch you later.